Maybe I'll like it. I don't care much for YouTube, but maybe I'll love this. All right, last episode.
Last time, Swak Wictus reached level 60 after suffering through hundreds of hours in Azeroth. Today, we're gonna showcase the WoW Classic endgame content and review it along with the rest of the game to provide the world with a non-biased, no nostalgia goggles review from a new player's perspective. But before we do, it's time for a recap, because it's been a long time and a lot has happened. After reaching max level, I lost interest in both questing, dungeons, gold farming, and metagaming. In fact, realizing that I'd been fulfilling a several month-long positive reinforcement loop of maximizing macro efficiency and structuring my entire behavioral pattern around dedicating several hours a day to World of Warcraft really took the wind out of my sails. I realized that this game rewards time over effort. It's tedious in nature much more so than it is difficult, and overcoming difficulty is what makes me feel accomplished. Slugging through tedium numbs my mind. In layman's terms, I was tired of doing repetitive shit in this boring game. So for my final pilgrimage, I set out to explore the last few uncharted territories in Azeroth that I had yet to venture through on my journey. I'll be using said pilgrimage to enlighten you. If you thought reaching 60 was the big reveal, you were fooled by the small reveal. I'm gonna start my last World of Warcraft video by revealing the best kept secret in all of Azeroth. 400 hours of standing, hitting, and occasionally jumping. 2.5 weeks of conscious human existence. Depending on who you ask, that on its own is quite a feat. Spending it in a 15-year-old MMO leveling a warrior? Now that's just masochistic. When I started playing, I was under the impression that it was a world of Warcraft. I've come to find that it's primarily about the war. The crafting is rather secondary. Blizzard built this massive world and filled it with all these fantasy races. They made players spend hundreds of hours becoming emotionally attached to each of their respective characters, then instigated one giant race war and let the pitfalls of the human condition do the rest. Even I have to admit, it's goddamn beautiful. The degeneracy is unmatched, and this game is a hub for all the best people living out their worst lives. Except me. I'm the worst person living out my best life. I managed to hold on to an incredible secret for half a fucking year just for this very moment. I told you, you're not ready for this. Soldier, if you're standing up, I'm gonna need you to sit down. You're gonna have to take a seat on this one. If you're prone to epileptic seizures or heart palpitations, then I suggest you take your delicate sensibilities to a more casual viewing experience. This is your last chance, because I'm about to take it to the next level.
I already sat down.
I'm not here to fuck around.
Dodge.
Have I not made that abundantly clear? This is go mode. I'm thorough, unrelenting, and word on the street is I'm downright meticulous. You think I'd just leave the series hanging without a conclusive ending? Fuck! Steve,
Dodge.
Yeah?
I'm gonna start ranting. You ramp up the music over the next minute.
Sure, John. God, I'm loving this unpaid internship.
You speak when spoken to. I'm gonna be frank with all of you. I detest the World of Warcraft endgame. Once I reached 60, I naturally started doing the raids. An experience I'll articulate later in the video. I was intensely disappointed to find that the reward for dumping a couple hundred hours of my life on this game is getting to do the same thing over and over again until you get lucky, but without dopamine points. Essentially farming for bis gear and doing monotonous repetitive shit. A lot of people suggest just making another character, but wisdom is knowing that to be the point of no return. If you make another character, you just turned WoW into an infinity game. No, I don't want to fuck around in AV several hours a day to get my honor rank up. No, I don't want to farm the same boss for hours in hopes that I'll win the role on a 5% drop. No, I don't want to find a guild that raids in the time frame that suits my weekly schedule. No, I don't want to do the Valentine's event and collect all these cards. No, I'm not excited to have a 1% more crit chance. And no, I don't want to wait half a year for Blizzard to release an hour's worth of content. And no, I don't want to deal with the ramifications of not talking to my WoW GF for months. Besides, this is what happened when I called her.
Yo, you really fucked up. You really fucked up big time, man. There's some bitch from Snapchat. You're fucked up, man. I'm sorry.
way.
I fucking played you.
No fucking
I
way.
got you! I got you! You fucked up! I got you!
Just kidding. That's a random dude. I actually haven't spoken to Amiri in months. I'm pretty sure Larry, the actual boomer, stole my girlfriend. But you know, it is what it is. I'm not good with MMOE relationships. I'll have to settle for real women. But enough about my emotional compromise. Here's the big reveal. I'm about to eclipse every single great feat on my journey. Had I just scammed a dying guild into farming my Whirlwind X? Already then had I established infamy. Had I stuck to just doing the boat skip? Already then would I have been a legend of Azeroth. Now, whilst the impulsive nature brought forth by the human condition is to blame for the death rolling epidemic, I single-handedly popularized WoW gambling to a point where it's infected every major city on every single server, including RP and PvE servers. That's an actual menace to society. I certainly feel like I've left my mark. Truthfully, genuinely, I could have just stopped there. Most men would be satisfied with that. But I'm not done. We could talk about how I made one of the most popular WoW series in the world. But enough narcissistic, self-congratulatory patting on the back. Here's my magnum opus. Half a year ago, I set out to do one thing and one thing only. Play World of Warcraft Classic to a point where I'd have fair grounds on which to review the game. Yet all I needed was but a mere glance at this game to accurately assess it. I played for half a year just to string you up, just to make you think I needed that much time to understand this boring-ass game. Pay close attention. As of today, I'm the World of Warcraft accurate review any percent speedrun world record holder. It was there all along. You were simply too blind to see it. From the very character selection screen, I reviewed the game. None of you fuckers caught on. When my conscious existence runs its course, this is what I leave behind. My dream, my legacy. I'm quick on my feet, vicious, nimble, and fucking tired of repeating myself. I'm the goddamn king! I run this shit! No more games. This is where I ascend. This is where I conquer. This is where I fucking rise!
Epic intro. What the fuck is he gonna do? What?
So now that we have my entirely arbitrary rating out the way, it's time to highlight the WoW endgame content. Seeing as I no longer design every minute of every day around gaining experience points, what else is there to do? Well, this is where the crafting comes into the picture. You see, to achieve the highest level of war, you essentially need to farm ridiculous amounts of gold. And I'd say the majority of time sunk into WoW past 60 is spent acquiring money. That is, if you're using traditional methods. Personally, I'm more into the war than the crafting, so I use my own patented infinite value gold farming method. First, you need a big crowd of people. The middle of Stormwind around the Nixie buff time is perfectly appropriate. Then, you need to find an individual who's willing to death roll you. Assess the depth of your wallet, then agree to roll him for 100 gold. If you lose the roll, confess that you don't possess that kind of money. If you win the roll, it's a 50-50 on whether he's also a scammer. Then you rinse and repeat till you're wealthy. At peak server times, this yields profit faster than the most efficient gold farming methods in the game. Chinese gold farmers hate him.
朋友是一个坚韧不拔的纪录片。
Blizzard doesn't ban people for convincing others to trade them gold, and most guilds have taken the stance that if you're dumb enough to get scammed, it's your own fault. So the only conceivable repercussion would be a negative reputation. But, seeing as most people that play WoW are degenerates, most of them will actually think highly of you for being smart enough to capitalize on a lukewarm IQ. You need to sort out your finances and establish a profitable economy, because if you don't, you won't be able to afford doing all the raids. As soon as I hit 60, I jumped headfirst into Onyxia and Molten Core. At the time, Blackwing Lair had yet to come out, and Prevenge raided Mondays and Thursdays, which just so happens to be the 2 weekday evenings where I'm not available because I'm busy being choked by old men at Jiu-Jitsu. So for my first 2 raiding experiences, I partook as a guest in another guild. The loot you're able to attain while doing pugs with other guilds is laughable. You're at the bottom of the food chain, and if they spare you anything, it's likely because they would have vendored or disenchanted the item otherwise. I did a full clear of
Nice
Molten Core and
parachute
raided
cloak, man,
Onyxia's lair
seriously.
twice, and I have 2 items to show for it. I won the roll on the Dragon's Blood Cape, which is an 18% drop chance from Ragnaros, and this relatively useless trinket that this fine gentleman snatched up for yours truly. That's the content creator experience paying its dues. Although these aren't fantastic items, at least one of them is my first purple item that I've actually gotten with my own 2 hands. Now that was a hefty handful hours of my life that I spent for barely any progress. As a stark contrast, this is what it was like to do one single MC raid with my guild.
Jesus. They would wipe on Gar.
And that was but one single raid with Prevenge. We also ran Onyxia on the same night, where I masterfully won a 1 in 40 raid roll for a juicy Onyxia backpack. Needless to say, raiding with your guild is without a doubt one of the best parts of the WoW Classic endgame. With that being said, joining a Molten Core raid when your guild has headed down to a fucking science for half a year isn't in any way challenging. You basically just do what the raid leader says. I've been at this for hundreds of hours, and I want to get to the difficult part of the game. In my case, that meant waiting patiently till Blackwing Lair was released along with
That ain't
Phase
gonna be hard.
3, which chronologically is over a month in the future from what you just saw. What scheming did I get up to in the meantime? I had a few loose ends to tie up. You see, I once promised myself that once I reached level 60, I would return to Stranglethorn Vale with an army of high-level players armed to the teeth. So I had to make a decision. Do I want 1 million views on YouTube, or do I want to say one word that the algorithm doesn't like? Staying true to my beliefs, I started advertising for my first unholy act of World of Warcraft genocide. Little by little, the word started spreading and my army began growing. We started with but a few men showing mild interest. Yet not long thereafter, a fucking platoon of soldiers saluted me as the Messiah, the savior who would cleanse Azeroth. When a measly level 27 gnome approached me with a humble request to be used as cannon fodder for the battle, I asked him if he was ready for the genocide. He said, "I am the genocide." When I stood side by side with things like Compound and my guilty Skankin' Pig, absolute carnal primates of the Alliance, I knew I would seize the day. I had one spot left for one special person. And I know what you're all thinking. Larry. Emiri. But no, Larry was raiding and women require attention. The last spot was for a business partner. Due to a misunderstanding, doing business with me was not a pleasure for him.
What? What? What?
Stranglethorn Vale was empty, absolutely desolate. We found like 3 horde players, and I'm pretty sure I could have killed them on my own. This wasn't up to par. In fact, it was entirely unsatisfactory. You know I wouldn't let this pathetic showing be our conquest. The crusade must go on, and on it went. You see, in WoW, many players are invested in their honor rank. The vast majority of players take great pride in having a lifetime 0 dishonorable kills. If you were to be in a raid party where someone offed 1 single civilian, every single person in that group would have a permanent stain on their previously beautiful stat page. So anyways, I decided to lead us into the Grumgull base camp. I wasn't aware that whenever a Horde NPC sees an Alliance player attack a Horde player, inexplicably, there will manifest 1 guard for each player in that person's party. In this case, about 40. In the midst of this unbridled chaos, someone did the unthinkable and gave everyone a dishonorable kill. After 370 hours in Azeroth, my perfect honor page was defiled. If you count my fellow warriors, literally several thousand hours of hard work carefully avoiding civilians was all ruined in 1 fell swoop. That was the point of no return. Future historians would refer to this as the incident, for it was the catalyst that made me snap and send our battalion over the edge. This is the moment in time where we went all sides of the spectrum ballistically rampant. I led the charge onto the Zeppelin. I knew many comrades would be lost along the way, but you gotta crack a few gnomes to make an Orgrimmar raid.
They're all gonna die. Yeah, doesn't this go to Undercity?
By the way, this was my first time ever leading a raid party, and I'll have you know that it is absolutely power in the wrong hands. Endgame WoW players basically have it hard-coded into their brains to do whatever the raid leader says, and here's a nugget of wisdom. Low to medium power corrupts. That's why Discord mods, raid leaders, and Minecraft server owners are the scum of the earth. But I digress. When arriving at Tirisfal Glades, I told my legion, cross into the other airship or you will die alone, which is actually rather mild compared to the language your average raid leader would use if someone made the slightest mistake. So we crossed into the opposite blimp with pure conviction. Any Horde player dumb enough to fight us on the airship got a 2-way ticket to the Death Realm. After cleaning up the public transit, we sailed the skies towards our destiny. The capital of the Horde, the heart of the beast, Orgrimmar. As soon as we arrived in Durotar, our unit got split up when a few of us jumped off to kill an orc. Within minutes, our entire raid party got systematically picked apart and ruthlessly destroyed in one of the most savage wipes I've ever been at the receiving end of. The Horde would go on to camp our corpses, and we didn't even make it close to Orgrimmar. At this point in time, we didn't run away. We merely fooled our enemies with a temporary tactical retreat. The army of Swagwictus does not flinch, does not stutter, and does not give up. We relocate to Booty Bay and bolster the ranks once more. You could smell the bloodlust in the air. Once we filled out the raid group, we conjured the perfect plan of attack. We take the boat to Ratchet, and by that, I mean, we miss the boat to Ratchet, only to await the next boat, which should arrive within a reasonable time frame. And by reasonable time frame, I mean... So we wait patiently for a full 5 minutes, after which we clearly demonstrated to Gingra the Orc that she was on the wrong side of history. Even though 40 people attacked her, the Booty Bay Bruisers exclusively target yours truly. I immediately get knocked off the boat and watch my army sail off without me. After embarrassingly having to be summoned by a warlock, I resume command of the incursion.
Oh, lucky. Fucking God of War.
We rode from Ratchet through the Barrens, opting not to go for a frontal assault. This time, we headed for the South Fury River, the Anal Canal of Orgrimmar. the back door, if you will. We all knew what was about to transpire. Every lost roll, every honor page defiled, all our emotional detriment. We'd finally get a release for the primal hatred we bury deep within. There's a time for cringy roleplay. There's a time to farm materials. And there's a time to do the crafting. But it is not this day. On this day, we wage war.
They're gonna die. Wait, they've gotten pretty far. Oh, there it is.
When I first saw action, I froze in terror and ran around like a headless chicken. But you don't get it, man. You weren't there. We didn't come with honor. We came with dishonor. We came for everything. The Horde, their bank NPCs, their vendors, their quest givers, the civilian casualties were flying left and right. If you look at any of these ruthless warrior stat pages, you will see a battle scar of dishonorable kills. Like a well-oiled machine, our battalion moves through the death dimension, and all simultaneously res inside the bank and rob it. Now, whilst we can't rob the money, we can rob the bank of its employees, and steal the time of day from its customers, as we force them through a tedious walk in the death realm. I realized in the midst of battle that I had finally arrived. The World of Warcraft intro tutorial rounds out at just about a couple hundred hours of playtime. That's when you've got a good grasp on the basics of this very complicated game. At this very juncture, you get to begin playing World of Warcraft. Look what you can accomplish with one man, 5 accounts, and a multi-box program when he puts his money where his mouth is. Separate charges on all 5 accounts with a macro set up to instantly decimate any fool dumb enough to attack him, absolutely smiting any Horde player with PvP turned on. In mind you, a ludicrous vicinity. That's what I'm talking about, that's a goddamn warrior! After 3 dishonorable acts of unholy aggression, we set our sights on Thunderbluff and began the march through foreign lands. You'll notice half my armor's broke and I have a res sickness, but that comes with the territory. We rode through the Barrens, down the Gold Road and past Ratchet, went west at Camp Tawaro, and traversed through the giant thorn-filled fields of Agamagor. After passing the Vanos Gaming Bristleback Boar Settlement, we scaled this hill in the southern Barrens to enter Malgor, the final zone in the game I had yet to step foot in. I can finally fill out the entire map of Azeroth. Goddamn beautiful.
He did it.
In Malgor, we make a pit stop for buffs and celebrate our thus far righteous conquest to our best ability in this online nightmare RP hellscape as a final ode to the intensely worrying roleplay elements of WoW.
Or maybe his other weapon's
We
broken.
got E-smashed at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, gathered our troops, and went on our final assault, the raid on Thunderbluff. That's for the countless hours I've spent corpse walking. That's for all my time leveling in Ashenvale. This is for every psychopath rogue player who was severely neglected by their respective parental figures. I told you I wouldn't take it lying down. You think I'd just forget the countless hours of cringy roleplay I had to endure just to get a dungeon room at 4 a.m.? Do you know who I am? And do you know what it takes to reverse the psychoactive effects of scoliosis? I didn't do several hour-long escort missions to become docile and agreeable.
I'm so
I
tired.
went through hell so I could get revenge.
I need to go to bed.
And when you think about it, it's pretty ironic that we managed to kill maybe 1 player for each 5 civilians. That's a really bad ratio. It's awful.
How long do they... Oh, fuck. All right, I'm ending it there. Go to retail. I'm ending it. I'm going fucking done. I still have to do my dailies. I'm not watching the end of that. It's unfortunate. I hate YouTube and I hate everyone.